All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the December 16th meeting of the Planning Committee of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Planning Commission. My name is Andrew Blumenthal. Oh, I guess first, we're meeting in room 280 of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Government Center. My name is Andrew Blumenthal. I serve as the chairperson of this committee. And let's go ahead and kick things off with introductions, starting with the commissioners. Let's start, Commissioner Winokur, with you.
Rick Winokur, Planning Commission.
Clayton Seeley, Planning Commission.
Rebecca Wilden, Planning Commission. Shauna Neely, Planning Commission.
Terry Lansdale, Planning Commission.
Thank you. And I realized I missed that this is being streamed online as well on the Charlotte Planning Department's, it's either YouTube or Facebook, one of them page. I forget which one. YouTube. So especially since we have some online presenters, want to make a note of that. Next, we will get started with our staff this evening. With Zania, please.
Zanya Duhaney, planning staff.
Kathy Cornett, planning staff.
Maria Florin, planning staff.
Jason Pauling, Planning Staff.
Erin Henson, planning staff.
We'll pass it around the wall too, as is tradition.
Erin Stanford, Sustainability Manager, Mecklenburg County.
Thank you.
Barry Ship, Pivot Point Transitional.
Mike Davis, Pivot Point Transitional.
Drew Hedrick, Pivot Point and Transitional.
Catherine Mahoney, planning. Gretchen Flores, planning staff.
Thank you all, and I believe we have a few people online as well, or no? Not? Nope. All right, perfect. Well, then let's get things kicked off. Aaron, Whitney, thank you. We'll have you introduce yourselves as we get through the agenda a little bit. First order of business, I believe we need to approve the minutes from our previous meeting on November 18th, 2025. Assuming you've all read them in detail. There any questions, comments, please let me know. If not, let's entertain a motion, please.
Motion to approve, Seeley.
Second, Wilden.
Motion by Seeley, second by Wilden. All in favor, please say aye. Thank you very much. We have quite a number of mandatory referrals this evening. I think I've asked each of you and we don't have any to pull, but just to confirm, are there any that we would like to discuss in more depth? Hearing no additional comments, and I don't have any either. Happy to entertain a motion for all of them at once.
Motion to approve. The Planning Committee reviewed mandatory referral reports, number 25-56 to 25-66 on December 16th, 2025, and have no additional comments for the submitting agency.
Second, Winokur.
All right, motion by Seeley, second by Winokur. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Keep up the good work, everyone. Now I believe Aaron is online. Aaron with an E, I'll let you kind of confirm the logistics here. Aaron, can you hear us?
Yeah, hear you great. Thanks. Can you hear me?
Maybe.
Nope.
Aaron, we can see you. Can you hear us all right?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Oh, I think I hear that. I think we should do a little volume.
Okay.
No, you're fine.
Okay, great.
Erin, can you try to say something again, please?
I can't hear Aaron actually.
We can hear him.
Well, yeah, it feels like we went the wrong direction there.
I can hear you fine, but the other
Bear with
voice-
us, Aaron. Technical difficulty.
Yeah, no problem at all. While she's getting that ready, I just asked in the text, actually, it's funny, I've not given this presentation to a planning commission before, but and usually it's very interactive. I know I've been blessed. Well, she's getting that ready. This presentation to a planning commission before, but and usually it's very interactive. I know there's a fairly big delay, I just realized. I think nobody else is talking, so I'm gonna talk, but if you guys have specific questions about the state of faith-based housing, I'm very aware the enterprise program just started there, but what you're seeing, what you're not happy with, what you hope to see, what are you dissatisfied with in Charlotte thus far, I can kind of tailor my experience and knowledge to help, ultimately serve you guys making decisions. But to start off, is there anybody who has anything that they're sort of frustrated with in the sphere that they want to help solve that could program my presentation? Or you guys making decisions, but to start off, is there anybody who has anything that they're sort of frustrated with in the sphere that they want to help solve that could program my presentation? Unfortunately, I can't hear anything, and I think whatever I'm saying is I'm coming to you about 6 or 7 seconds later.
That was a good real time, man.
That's
Okay.
Where is he?
Whatever I'm saying is I'm coming to you about 6 or 7 seconds later. Okay. I've not heard any instructions. Should I just start presenting or should I wait? I've not heard any instructions. Should I just start presenting or should I wait?
Phone and then it goes on the mic here.
I only got part of that. Was that talking to me?
Phone and then it goes on the mic here.
Okay, sorry. So sorry, Aaron. Can you, oh, it's repeating him.
I heard you fine, Aaron.
Okay, sorry. So sorry, Aaron. Can you, oh, it's repeating.
Fine, Aaron.
Okay, sorry. So sorry, Aaron. Can you,
All right.
Can you hear me, Aaron?
Yeah, hear you fine.
But now we can't hear you because I muted this.
Test.
But now we can't hear you because I muted this. Sorry, Aaron, I know you can't hear us when we're not unmuted. We're just having technical difficulties. We apologize. We're
That's okay.
getting feedback on our end. We're hearing everything twice. We've
What is
contacted
it?
our.
Okay. I'm gonna look for a headphone, which might help fix that, but bear with me.
Feedback on our end. We're hearing everything twice. We've
Test.
Aaron, we're going to try to give you a call if that's okay.
Sure.
And we might just have to listen to you on speakerphone.
Okay, that'd be fine. Is this Clayton? Sorry.
Ask
Hello?
him to mute his microphone on his computer.
Just mute. I just muted it. Yep.
Hey, man.
Hey, is that working?
Yeah. Can everyone hear this though?
You guys hear okay? Test.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
You guys can hear
Where-
me
where-
fine? Okay. No. Aaron, thank you. Apologies for the complications. This is Andrew Blumenthal. So we do have someone coming to try and assist, but in the meantime, since we have a couple of people presenting, I think let's go ahead and get started. Everyone in the room can hear you, so just let us know if and when we need to move to the next slide. And let's pretend like we heard nothing you said to start with.
It sounds good. Well, thanks again for having me, guys. We went back a decade or two in technology to make this thing work, but we appreciate it. That's a good metaphor for doing this work. You got to figure it out. So, I wanted to I want to put a bug in your all's ear because I know this is a short presentation, but I know I've had the luxury of coming down to Charlotte twice now to talk about the faith-based housing initiative with the Urban Design Center and at the university. Very aware of the ecosystem that's there, the enterprise cohort that just started. Just that Charlotte is really what I think I realized that people in Charlotte did not realize is that it may be the most advanced city in the country for these issues. Doesn't mean that figured it all out. Doesn't mean that there's not work to do. But across the country, people are talking about this, but there's very little. There's not that many projects on the ground that are great case studies yet. And Charlotte, through through the cohorts and through folks like Reverend Cleghorn and Enterprise and Covenant Presbyterian funding some work. There's some real interesting things to look at there. So first and foremost, you guys should recognize that. And I think a good function of a planning commission would think about how to leverage what you're good at. If Charlotte's really good at this, how can you be great at it? And just looking at ways to create an ecosystem in 2 or 3 years where anybody who's interested in this field goes to Charlotte, because you just have to go there to study the projects and how they got done. So keep that in mind as I go through that. That said, this exercise might be hard via the phone, but I wanted to ask you guys for personal experience, and if one person wants to chime in or two, but if there's any point of dissatisfaction, or what are you seeing with the current state of faith-based housing that you're unhappy with? Maybe it's not enough stuff getting built. Maybe it's inability to execute, or projects don't look great, or whatever. But what are you guys seeing that you're frustrated with in Charlotte currently?
On spot.
I don't know. Any problems? I mean, honestly, that there's not enough education being done to some of the larger churches and some of the larger landholders in the city. I think this is something we should be shouting from the rooftop, considering I believe in the presentation I sat in with you. The gentleman from the city or county said 10% of the city's land is owned by either nonprofits or faith-based organizations. So, that's my biggest thing, as always, is communication out to the public about opportunities. So.
And this is Andrew. And again, to your point, I think some of the complications that I personally have seen are that, one, as mission oriented as a faith institution may be, there are always still construction financing and the hard costs associated with any of these developments. And again, no matter how altruistic the landowner may be, those can still be very significant roadblocks to successfully completing these projects. And then kind of as a caveat to that as well, some of them, again, while mission oriented, when they see what that property might garner on the open market from a private developer and what that could in theory do for their endowment or their congregation, it kind of helps them, or not helps them, but makes them veer away from the affordable component as well.
Yeah, for sure. Or just intentional component of any sort. Sure. The easy button is to sell it to a big developer and move on. Anybody want to add anything to that before I move on?
Add as Shauna Neely in the planning commission, just the education component, still a lot that we don't know, can't articulate to other people how this can work. So that's a huge part for me.
So that's great to hear and super helpful. I think getting the word out about this is definitely important. And there's an education gap and an execution gap, which our initiative is very revolved around trying to address. If you guys can actually go to the next slide, and one more slide beyond that, actually. What we found when we were looking around, I should back up. I'm Aaron Lubeck, for those of you who don't know me, I'm a designer and builder here in Durham, North Carolina. I started Southern Urbanism, a nonprofit 4 years ago to advocate for building better cities in the South. And out of that came this initiative, which was largely the result of an exploratory design charrette we did here in Durham when we were undergoing local zoning code reforms in 2022, where we got together 5 churches and explored what our new zoning code could do for churches. And that zoning code was very simple. It said that churches, and I'm using that as shorthand, it's really any faith, could build unlimited accessory dwellings on their property, which is super simple, right? So that's in Durham, that's a 1,200 square foot home, 2 stories maximum. Other than that, you can attach them, you can detach them, you can lay them out any way you want. And that was incredibly freeing, not only to the churches, but for the design professionals that work with them to design these sorts of beautiful, inspiring villages that have a community component to it. So the faith-based housing initiative came out of that because that was exactly how a good charrette should work. It sort of opens the mind and you see things you didn't know. And we walked away from that going like, wow, there's really something here. And so that's why we started the initiative, which was largely built around these 3 crises. I think everybody's familiar with the housing crisis. We don't need to dig into that. Certainly there's a crisis of faith, which presents in multiple ways. But as you guys know, many churches are declining in participation, not all. Many churches are struggling with finances, not all. Though they generally have land free and clear in the South, unlike the older areas of our country, the upper Midwest and New England, generally sitting on quite a bit of land. And as you get into some cities, the numbers are actually kind of astronomical, as somebody on the panel you alluded to earlier. So those 2 things combined are really leading to a loneliness crisis, which for a while I always thought was trite when I said this, but it's really pretty accurate. We're not building enough housing near things, and people are disassociated and detached and trying to find meaning in life. And so the work and the opportunity really in any community-based development, but particularly church-based development, can have the power to address these things, to bring purpose and meaning and community back into what we do. So that's is really behind the training that our initiative is doing and how it's a bit differentiated from other offerings that are out there in the marketplace. You can go to the next slide. So everybody who's on the top left, you guys have probably 50 of these in Charlotte, and I, as an urbanist, I can steelman this if I need to, but we're seeing tons of Texas donut apartments all over, fast growing places like the Triangle. And Charlotte had no shortage of them, and they're housing. So that's, we kind of make our peace with this as urbanists and people in planning commission that, it's urban, it's dense, it's efficient, but not inspiring and not necessarily place-based. And, the exact same building is built in Charlotte, Raleigh, and Chicago and so forth. And so certainly not satisfying the human soul, right, so to speak. And what we see on the bottom right here, every time we travel to any place worth traveling to, we see inspiring, beautiful, human-scaled architecture. It's not necessarily even hard. Like there's some proportionality here that takes a little bit of study, but these are repeatable designs that are not even expensive to build. Often you can build what's on the right per unit as much as you can for the ones on the left, because these big apartment complexes can be expensive. But the village scale is really where we think the vast majority of faith-based institutions are going to find their sweet spot for building. And if you do it right, the community is almost an inherent byproduct. Next slide. And this is a great example. Anybody who's interested in seeing this video can email me later, but there's a stunning video done by a Notre Dame student, which I showed at the Urban Design Center talk I gave in Charlotte. But if you look at this left picture, you'll see a Catholic church and I believe a Lutheran church next to downtown South Bend, kind of struggling Rust Belt city. And what's around it? You see kind of an industrial utility building. You see some grassy fields, some kind of underloved parking lots, right? And so the student had designed this sort of idyllic, beautiful village where these have the roads or muses that could also be places you could have a party or a dinner even. They're so nice. But, you know, this looks almost luxurious to our minds because we're so conditioned in North Carolina from seeing mediocrity built, to be blunt, that this looks luxurious. But these are simple, really inexpensive buildings to build. And the kind of places that one of the things we're finding with faith-based housing is that it's actually about a lot more than affordability. Typically in civic boards and often in politics, we're only talking about affordability. But there's also senior housing, there's refugee housing, there's homeless housing. There's actually one of the things that was revelatory to me in that shred exercise in Durham, we had 5 churches and 2 of them wanted to build hospital support housing. I didn't know there was even a market for this. In fact, somebody who's staying in the apartment behind my house is here for 2 months while their son has a heart and liver transplant simultaneously. As of Thanksgiving, I didn't even know this was possible. Anyway, short story long, people come to Durham for months at a time to deal with the biggest trauma they'll ever deal with in their life. And generally the default solution for them is to stay at the Sheridan, right? So the ability, there's actually churches who want to support people in their time of need and are, that's their mission. That's what they've chosen they want to do. And it's one of the interesting things that we're seeing nationwide where states are passing YIGBY laws, yes, in God's backyard. If you guys have heard of that, it's kind of a play on NIMBY and YIMBY and so forth. And to our knowledge, every single one of them requires affordability. So to allow a church to build housing, they have to build affordably. And we see that as an incredible headwind because it forces churches into arenas they don't understand, they don't know, and maybe they're not even want to do. What's interesting is that senior housing, refugee housing, homeless housing is sort of inherently affordable anyway. Churches are not really interested in doing high-end housing. They're mostly within the mission, but the affordable requirements really limit their options. And then ultimately, as we're just trying to get more of these built, potentiality of getting things out of the ground. So we think the keeping things wide for faith institutions is actually really important while this industry is fledgling. And you can see that in this picture on the right. Next slide. The biggest issue is an execution gap. Churches, while we know, I'd even start with why churches should be great at this. Having mission, having people, having a civic building on site is actually a huge deal. It's easier to build a community when you have a commercial kitchen and an event space and a daycare and all the things that are very commonly associated with legacy churches. To have land free and clear, to have need and mission and nonprofit status are all extraordinarily valuable place for a developer to start, and all better situation than a for-profit developer. So still, why aren't churches building? So the main reason is that there's an execution gap. So this goes beyond more than just letting churches know they can build, which they can by right here in Durham now, but also that there's a lot to learn to put a shovel in the ground, right? So the gap between a church deciding, hey, we really care about housing, we have this land, we're committed, we know how hard it will be, we want to do it, and putting a shovel in the ground is a gap that has to be closed. And right now, the market is very deficient in practitioners who speak that language. And so it's often shoehorning developers and architects who are good at what they do, but it's not the thing that the church wants to do. And we run into this all over North Carolina. The church gets serious about building, they invite a developer in. That developer only does townhomes, and they can't think of anything else. And it's a fine developer, but it's kind of, if everything you have, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so the ability to develop builders, architects, and developers who speak church, for lack of a better word, is really critical. And I think part of Charlotte's growth will probably include some training that bring together your vast ecosystem of building professionals to teach them basics. I mean, some of those are the difficulties of working with nonprofits. like generally nonprofits struggle to execute more than for-profits. They have all sorts of benefits, but that's just a reality of across the state. So how do you work with groups that are consensus thinking? Or what is the decision-making hierarchy of a Methodist church versus a Lutheran one? These are nuances that most people don't know. They're teachable. There aren't really people teaching them yet, but that's something that we're involved with, and I think Charlotte would ultimately benefit from digging into. There's not a ton of precedents to follow. I think Charlotte's further along than most places. I think what Reverend Clay Corden is doing at Caldwell Presbyterian is remarkable. What Covenant has done is really remarkable. And then as somebody else had mentioned, this should just say development is expensive, not just pre-development. I'm excited that I think Enterprise, well, the city funded Enterprise's work to give the cohort churches money to do site planning and bank planning and so forth, which is something that we do as well. But that's really important because just getting to the point where you have the right to build is too expensive, and it's a significant hurdle and headwind and contributor to the reason that people aren't building. Next slide. So our work is actually very narrow. I would say there's three groups doing this, and we're all kind of different. I don't know if any of you guys know Daniel Pryfogle ran a cohort out of Wake Forest Divinity School. Daniel is really the best that I've seen, particularly the theological background of this work, and was involved with the Duke Divinity, also had a cohort that did this as well. I think Enterprise has a training that is most experienced. It tends to be a little bit more geared towards training a church to sell to a developer. And I'm not kind of neutral on whether that's the right thing or not. Enterprise has a 50-year history of doing LIHTC projects and affordable housing. That's kind of their expertise. They kind of do bigger stuff and typically publicly financed, but they, train churches and all sorts of things. Our work is emphatically design forward. We really do two things. We do 5 churches at a time for a 5-month program. And we start with a design charrette and end with a 3-month development training, which comes out with basically a bank plan that is fundable and could be pitched to philanthropies, bankers, equity partners or developers or so forth. You go to the next slide. So we recently streamlined this down to these 2 offerings because we think at the end of the day, these are the 2 things that churches need to execute. You need a world-class site plan, one that your neighbors would be excited to live next to, one that your members of your church would be excited to live in and live by, that is inspiring and refreshing and rejuvenating and so forth. And what flows from the site plan is essentially a bank plan, but who's the builder? What will this cost to build? What is the equity stack? How are we going to finance it? What's the schedule and so forth? None of those are necessarily different than any development plan or hard to do, but they're new to almost all congregations we work with. And so that's the second part here, which is ends up being about a 15-page, execution plan, takes about 3 months to create. But at the end of that, our programming, the congregations have both of those things. Great site plan that's exciting to look at. You can talk to the city about it, you can talk to your members about it, and an equity plan to finance the thing. Doesn't guarantee anybody puts a shovel in the ground, but in our view, prepares those congregations, as well as they can be to succeed. And that's our goal. Next slide. Now I want to try to actually wrap up and answer any questions you have. I know we're on a bit of a clock, but this is a short part. We put together a great team that is the designers are Notre Dame rooted, who I think are the best at classical design, which is really a big deal for those of you who know traditional architecture. That's Interblock Design Studios, our lead architect. And then the Incremental Development Alliance, which I don't think has done a cohort in Charlotte yet, but trains about 1,000 developers a year and does the development training. So it's very bottom up, grassroots, and kind of scrappy incremental, as opposed to larger finance, larger deals that kind of end up with bigger developers. Anyway, that's how we're different and trying to figure it out. But if you go to the next slide. This is for anybody's interested, could reach out directly, but I know the purpose of this call is more to answer questions and help you guys out. So I'd leave it there and ask if you guys have any questions or what can I help with?
Aaron, thank you very much. We'll make sure that everyone here has your contact information as a follow-up to this. And are you comfortable if we share this presentation with the commissioners?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, that would be great. Anybody have questions, comments for Aaron?
Okay.
Yeah, so because we're flexible here, we'll just
Okay.
talk on speakerphone and then hold it up to the microphone for your response. So
Hi, Aaron. This is Shauna again. Thanks so much for your presentation. I guess my question, I'm just wondering, are you able to tell us what kind of help you offer faith-based organizations with the practical costs for development?
Over the practical cost. So our work is limited to the training, partially because we work in cities where we don't develop. I mean, I have developed in Durham myself, and I'm, familiar with the process and experience with it, but we're not actually the developer. So our work is limited to the education, and I'm fully recognizing that still leaves a gap for the congregations to close. So it's a good question. Our goal is to prepare the congregations to find that person, including coaching them how to do that. But the biggest thing is putting together a coherent plan. So when you do call on, whether it's Bank of America or a foundation in Charlotte, or there are larger churches in Charlotte that are actually funding smaller churches, that when that is asked, there's a clear message, and that we're really good at training. So while we don't actually raise the money directly, we prepare participant congregations to do it.
Thank you.
any other questions? Aaron, Andrew, again, thank you for your time. I think this is exciting in that it feels like the start of a longer conversation, right? Because of the amount of opportunity that there is. I do want to note that, while we are focused on affordable housing, there are also people here this evening that are focused more on the transitional housing piece. In fact, our third presenters of the evening. And if you're able to stick around and listen to their presentation, that would be great. If not, I would encourage you to connect with Barry and his team and Pivot Point. It sounds like there could definitely be some congruency between faith-based housing and what they are looking to accomplish, but I'll leave it to them to kind of get more into the details there. But again, thank you for your flexibility with this. And it was wonderful to hear from you, and we'll be in touch soon, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, seriously. All right. Well, thank you guys for being flexible with that one. I'm assuming we still have Whitney online. Do we want to take a stab? I don't know if anybody has her cell phone number anyway, but yeah, that's fine.
Love you, Job. Hi, Whitney. If you can hear us, if you could pull up your slides for us, that would be wonderful. And you should have permission to share your screen. And while you do that, we have a staff person with us that's going to try to work through some of our tech issues.
Okay, yeah,
just
let
for
me
a
know if
moment,
you guys
you'll
are getting
bear with us.
feedback on your end.
We can't hear.
Oh, can you hear me?
Okay.
Oh, can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, let's confirm there's no echo. I don't hear you. Oh, no, there.
Yes, I can hear you.
That's what we're getting. Okay, let's confirm there's no. Sorry, Whitney, we're still getting some echo on our end. So if we can just try to work through that really quick, we apologize. One
Okay.
moment. Sorry, Whitney, we're still getting some echo on our end. So if we can just try to work through that really quick, we apologize. One moment. Might be it. Whitney, we may have figured it out. Can we try one more time? Could you please try to say something for
Yeah.
us?
Yeah, no, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay.
Let's give it 1 second to see if we hear ourselves again. Yay, Commissioner Lansdale saved the day.
Thank you, Josh. Josh, Aaron, thank you. Whitney, thank you for joining us tonight. Continuing the theme of affordable and transitional housing, you and the team at Sage Development and Sage Investment Group, excuse me, are also taking a creative approach. So would love to, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, obviously the organization, and then kind of the same as last time, we'll listen to you and save questions for the end.
Yeah, no. So yeah, I'm Whitney Wilkins with Sage Investment Group. So we focus on taking underutilized hotels and converting them into studio housing. So that we actually have a current project in Charlotte in Sugar Creek area. It's the former Roadway Inn and Speedway Inn, and we've combined the two properties and are doing one project, and it actually is nearing the end of construction. So we hope to get an initial block of units up for leasing by the end of the year, hopefully. So we're really at that end of construction. We're super excited. So I'm here to just talk a little bit more about Sage, about our process, since we do this in multiple cities across the US, and a little bit more about some of our other projects. And I'm our community relations director. So this is very much specifically what I do, is getting the chance to really engage with all the different communities where we have these projects, and explain, basically who we are and what we do. So what's interesting is, so we're not, and fully candidly, we're not technically affordable housing. We are what's called naturally attainable, or workforce housing, just by kind of naturally how we convert these apartments. So that's why we call it attainable housing. But as I mentioned, we're a very specific niche company. So we convert a lot of these hotels that as I said, they're underutilized. Some have, or a lot have deferred maintenance. Some really never rebounded from the pandemic, financially. And so they've gotten themselves underwater. But what's really great about converting a hotel into studio housing is the way that hotels are set up. It makes it a lot more cost effective and streamlined for the tenants when we are able to actually convert them, because the way that hotels are set up, think about utilities, cable, internet, everything. It's all bundled together instead of being separate by unit. And so it creates a kind of all-inclusive package that's already set up once tenants move in. So it creates a much streamlined process there for tenants. It basically, and when we started this a few years ago, it was to really address that housing crisis. So the United States still needs about 7.3 million more housing units. So that's where a lot of this started, is saying, hey, we've got this hotel. They have about maybe 2 tenants out of 100 unit, or 2, short-term lodgers out of 100 rooms. So really being able to take those properties, from basically off the current owner's hands. Usually they're part of larger like family portfolios, and saying, hey, we're gonna, try to buy this from you and then convert it into something that's a lot more useful. And then this is just kind of information that I already went over, how a lot of the hotels, they haven't recovered from COVID. They've got, a lot of deferred maintenance. And we work with many markets across the United States where we basically have identified, hey, this is, a large city with a growing workforce, but still short many housing units. And that's kind of how we choose what cities that we think would be best for some of these projects. When we do this, I wanted to add this slide on safety, because I know a lot of questions that we get are around what type of housing that we're creating, and basically, and then also, how are we creating an impact in those communities? And so when we do these, we go into that, not just the housing mindset, but also saying, hey, we want to have a really good net positive impact on these communities, especially some of these underutilized hotels that we're taking on. Some of them have had nuisance issues, for example. And one of the biggest things that we want to do is saying, hey, we're trying to create a community here where people have basically just a residential community, because these are market rate units, 12-month leases. So these are going to be people's homes. This is going to be, we want to create that nice, safe, secure environment for our tenants. And so one of the things that we do is, we make sure that we secure the property. So we've got the security fencing, gates with key code entry, security cameras, motion sensors, and our property management team is actually on site. So they're on site about 6 days a week, standard working hours. So that way tenants, if they have any issues, they can actually just go into the leasing office and talk to somebody. We also like to work a lot with local law enforcement as we're doing the construction of these properties, to make sure that we're still having a secure environment as we're doing construction. Community engagement. So yes, obviously, as I mentioned, we're trying to create residential communities as well. That's really a big piece of what we do. So we like to engage within the community. I've even got the Quarters of Opportunity up here that we have been working with in the city of Charlotte. The Charlotte has been just amazing to work with. We've been so excited to basically find opportunities within Charlotte, connect with all the different community organizations. It's been very welcoming, and so it's been a really great place to work so far, and that's why we're super excited to actually open our property and pass that along to our tenants as well, to say, hey, we've already connected with all the all the neighbors and all the different community organizations, and so being able to pass those connections on to our property management team and further drive that with our tenants, because we want everyone to feel really engaged within that specific area of Charlotte that they're in. So yes, tenants. So on site, as I mentioned, we utilize property management team that is going to be on site. As far as the typical tenants that we have, it's just really just, standard workforce housing. From what we've seen from most of our properties is, a lot of our tenants are just, everyday professionals that work close, to that property. We get also a lot of veterans, retirees. Our property management team is, so far we're going to be using a management team called Drucker and Falk, and they've already done some pre-applications. This is exactly the type of tenants that they're seeing, as well as a lot of flight attendants they've actually seen come through as well because of the proximity to the airport. So, all of our tenants go through screening. Again, this is market rate, but because of what it is, it's just that kind of naturally attainable housing. We also like to be the most competitive within a market. So, basically what that is, we say, hey, we take what's the next closest studio unit? And we like to be, even more competitive as far as pricing. But everyone goes through background screening, financial screening, credit screening. And then we do get this question a lot about, hey, how many people are going to be in each unit? We go by standard regulation, which is no more than 2 heartbeats per room. So that's either 2 people or a person and a pet. Just to show you some past projects that we've done, because we also do get this question a lot. I've got some just photo examples here of how we've converted some of these hotels. So some of these pictures are before or the pictures on top are the before. So you've got, we've bought properties that they've tried to convert before. So they've been, halfway gutted. A lot of them just, as you can see some of the pictures, they're just really run down. And that's typically, the state that we see a lot of these hotels in when we come into them. And the pictures on bottom are what we've been able to do after the conversion. So we add, almost a full kitchen in there. And so as you can see, you have sink, full range, refrigerator, and enough room for, queen size bed, seating area. So it's, these are actually 2 different hotels on these bottom pictures. But yeah, we like to basically create an upstate so that it is a full studio unit. This is one of my favorites. We also utilize the amenity spaces as well. So a lot of hotels come with amenity spaces. We want to utilize those. Here's one of a really obviously rundown indoor pool that was neglected. Instead of keeping it as a pool, we thought it would be better utilized as a kind of meeting space. What you can't see on this photo is actually on the other side is a full shared kitchen. We do that on a lot of our properties where we can. We do a giant kitchen that it can be shared, with all of the tenants. But we like to create a lot of community spaces where we can. And then, yes, wanted to show you some renderings of what the former Speedway Inn is going to look like. Again, we're nearing construction, so we don't have, once we complete construction, we'll be able to have more photos taken, so we'll be able to show you guys like what the actual finished product looks like, but wanted to be able to show you some of our renderings of what it'll look like in the interim. So this was the former Speedway, and this was the clubhouse. And so this is what it's going to look like afterwards. And so this was kind of, this right here is the space in between the Speedway and Roadway Inn. And again, a lot of really utilizing the amenity spaces, trying to create a lot of joint spaces for tenants. So this is going to be an outdoor seating. And I actually think they're going to be adding some barbecue pits in here. So we've actually added to what this original rendering is, but that's what the courtyard is going to look like. And this is what the clubhouse is going to look like. So this is what it looked like before we started construction. And this top picture is what it's going to be looking like once it's completed, and it's almost there at this point, so we're super excited. Again, a lot of spaces, and this is also the clubhouse is where the leasing office is going to be. So that's where tenants can go if for again initially to submit applications, or once they live there if they need anything or have any questions. And this, I'm really excited to show you guys. These were actually just taken a few days ago. So again, we were able to partner with Corridors of Opportunity team at the Urban Design Center to do a community mural on this property. So this is a mural kind of brought to the idea by the community. So we picked a local artist and held a series of meetings to get community feedback of what they would like a mural to be. And so we decided on the Many Faces of Charlotte. And so just really excited that this is going up and reflecting the community. And it's actually going to be in 2 areas of the property. So the tenants get to enjoy it. And then also people passing by on the street they'll see it, whether you're driving or walking on the sidewalk. So you'll be able to see that and enjoy that as well. This is I also just included a testimonial of one of our city council members in a different city in Tacoma, Washington. This is one of the first cities that we started to do these conversions. So we thought it'd be great to kind of add a testimonial of our council member down there of, just, being able to work with the city, and be a partner to, try to help with the, the housing crisis, in the city. And so it's just a reflection of one of our mission of saying, hey, if there are these properties where we could take this and convert it to something that's really needed in a city, that's definitely what, that's where we'll be, and that's what we want to do. And that's our goal here. I will, open it up to questions.
Thank you very much, Whitney. I think we're all, loosely familiar with the project, but it's great to see the amount of detail and what it's really going to turn into. Do we have any questions? Commissioner Wilden.
So these are up for rent, but do y'all ever do anything for ownership? I know that is a big thing for at least one of our council members of affordability, but also home ownership for low income folks and middle income and moderate. And so do y'all just do renting?
We just do renting. Yeah, no, we've gotten that question before. We haven't, it's not that we're not opposed to it, in the future, but currently the way that these projects work out is just for renting.
Awesome. And then, oh, never mind. I forgot. I'll email you if I think of my other question. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Any other questions? There.
This might not be for you, but I'm just sort of trying to get my head around the conversation around the crisis around housing for Mecklenburg County. And I'm trying to understand a little bit about the diversity of data associated with this. I'm looking at a report from AEI that says the housing shortage for Mecklenburg County is at 21,328. We have 17,000 units coming on in 2025 alone that Planning Commission has approved. How do we marry this opportunity of equity in reaching and attaining a housing status quo with the data and understanding what the needs really are in the housing world? I don't want to use the word crisis, because I think there's data out there that's it's a different situation than that descriptor is in reality. Can you guide us to that kind of? Did I get my question in there about how do we manage the data that really might be in conflict with the word crisis and dealing with the situation?
Yeah, no, I get what your question is. I think because you're right. And that is something I think when we started this project, a lot of these projects are kind of long running. And I think we've been working on this in the city of Charlotte for 2 or 3 years now. So yes, I think a lot more, even as I've seen working with the city of Charlotte, I think you've seen a lot more developers come in and get approvals through the planning commission. So that data has definitely been ever evolving, even since the time that we've, been engaging with this project. So I definitely think the city of Charlotte is absolutely on the right path forward. Just as one of the other cities that I just talked about that we got a testimonial from was Tacoma. It's a very similar situation. I think because there was such a priority on it coming out of what I've seen, such a priority coming out of the pandemic a few years ago, you've seen definitely a lot more interest in developing more units. What we're trying to solve here is that kind of what we call naturally affordable. So even though it's not technically affordable housing, it is that basically naturally occurring workforce housing. So it definitely fits a specific need of someone who's like an individual, as I mentioned, like a veteran or retiree or just normal working day individual that wants a basically lower cost unit that's closer to their work, because again, we tend to be one of the more competitive units in the market of almost all the markets that we're in. And so that's really that niche that we're trying to, that we're targeted on.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Winnie, one quick thing, and again, thank you for the presentation. And if it's helpful, the acronym that we use here is NOAH, Naturally Occurring Affordable Housing.
Okay.
So we're very familiar with the concept. And I guess my question is, in Charlotte, this project is situated in an area that really needs that type of product, right? In other cities where you've done these, has that kind of been the consistent theme just because of where you're able to acquire the properties? Or are there
Yes.
examples of this being done in kind of the affluent submarkets of certain cities as well?
So it's definitely, we've got, so like opportunity zones, and then we've also got more affluent zones. And what we do is we really strategically look at the area and the property and say, hey, is this type of housing needed? So again, when we are identifying these, underutilized hotels, I mean, that is a very long process. For example, it can be between identifying a property and actually saying, hey, we're going to purchase it. That could be a 2-year process, because we do take a, good effort to meticulously look at the data of that city and to look at the area and say, hey, is this going to be, again, that net positive impact? We've seen this, again, area like this could really use this project. We've also have just opened up projects in cities where maybe it's more of an affluent area, but it's the same problem. They have a housing shortage because people cannot get even a 1-bedroom apartment for under, $3,000 a month. And so and there's people that need housing in that area, but they can't find anything cheaper than that. And so we're saying, hey, we're going to do a project here so that people can get a housing unit for much less than that. And so we've seen this work in multiple markets, but it's really just about that property, that specific community. Will it work?
Got it. And I think part of that as well, just as I think it through, is, and I'm not certain how familiar you are with Charlotte. I would imagine somewhat, but if you looked in, call it a South Park or a Ballantyne, which are rapidly growing parts of Charlotte. I mean, the whole city is, but the hospitality assets there are not struggling. And so there's not the opportunity for a conversion,
yeah.
Which kind of leads to my next question. Obviously, the projects that you featured have been hotel motel conversions. Have you ever looked at, I mean, it was kind of a hot topic, right? The office to residential or even other kinds of buildings. Has Sage ever thought about other asset class conversions?
We have, and that's something that we've looked into. The hard thing is just does it pencil out, especially with office buildings, because of how they convert. They weren't meant to convert. And so a lot of times they're more costly to convert than if you were to just demo them to the ground and rebuild. And that's been largely the problem with with some of these buildings. It's again, we've looked into it. We continue to look into anything that we can convert, but based on how hotels were structured, they're able to convert that. We're also able to pass that cost savings down to the tenant. And that's the biggest thing. And so we wouldn't want to convert something where we basically just be creating luxury apartments.
Got it. No, thank you very much. And hopefully this first one goes well and there will be some other opportunity in the future.
Yes. Yeah, no, we
Last
definitely
question,
hope
sorry.
so.
Are you okay if we share this presentation again with the commission? Okay, thank you. And
Absolutely.
thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
All right. Last but definitely not least, we have Barry Ship and the Pivot Point team here with us this evening. I had the pleasure of meeting about Pivot Point a few weeks ago and was very excited about you guys having the opportunity to come. So again, this is the shift from affordable or naturally occurring affordable to transitional housing. And Barry, if you wouldn't mind, please introducing yourself and I'll let you take it from here.
Oh, that's right. I'm live. I'm live. Okay. My name is my name is Barry Ship, and I'm the founder and CEO of Pivot Point Transitional Housing. Pivot Point is not your traditional transitional housing. What we do is we're creating a village of small, tiny pods that create a community of folks that are living outside. And these are for primarily people that are experiencing homelessness, those that are chronically homeless. A person that is chronically homeless is a person that's been outside for over 180 days straight, you know? So what we try to do is focus on those folks first. Come with me. Imagine this. Coming up to a stop sign. You see a guy standing there with a sign, his eyes fixed straight on you. But you continue to look straight ahead to avoid eye contact. That person just became invisible. Now walk with me into the woods. Far enough not to be seen in the street. You come to a campsite. There's an older gentleman sitting around a campfire trying to stay warm. He sees me and he starts to smile. His name is Raymond. Raymond's an older gentleman that has been living in this tent for a few years. I asked Raymond this particular time, is there anything that you want? Is there anything in the world that you would want? And he said, sure, home, a place to live. I don't think I'm gonna make it another year. This sparked something inside of me because I was once homeless and I know what it feels like to be outside, to wake up to the sun and go to sleep to the moon. I started thinking about what I could do for Raymond. Raymond didn't fit in any programs that would get him housed. So I searched the internet and I saw these guys building this small shelter on a trailer. And I said, wow, if we could get that to Raymond, then he could be out of the elements. He'd have somewhere safe to sleep. Well, I'm not a carpenter and I don't know anything about building anything, but God led me to the right people. A gentleman, Tom Dezan, he owns his own architect firm. He took on the project of creating what we have as our prototype. Berger Construction came in and built it pro bono, you know, and then we had this prototype. But Raymond never got to live in the prototype because he died before we got it built. And the thing is that there are people that are dying every year, every winter, because they don't have a safe place to sleep. Tents aren't waterproof. You can't keep the animals out. You can't keep people out. I've seen women raped in tents. I've seen tents caught on fire. I've seen where rodents and raccoons invade the tent and they're just not safe. So what we came up with, this is the concept of Pivot Point. What we want is not just to build shelters, but to build people's and to build their lives. What living on the street, you lose a lot of the basic skills to sustain housing. A lot of folks that are on the street were housed at one time, but for whatever reason, they lost their housing and they ended up back on the street. So what we wanted to do was cut down on the recidivism of people coming and going, coming and going. Landlords spend a ton of money getting an apartment ready for somebody to come in, tear it up, and then they have to do that all over again. And our housing crisis came when landlords said, we're not taking vouchers anymore because those people tear up our houses and we just don't do it. So what I wanted to do was take a person, give them the wraparound services, but teach them the basic skills to sustain housing. It's just like home economics. You have to have home economics to sustain life. They stopped teaching it in school, but you know, kids have the internet now and they have technology that takes the place of home economics. These folks aren't afforded that. So what we have to do is go back to the old school way of teaching a person how to manage money, how to manage your household, how to not to make your house the spot and make it your home. So what we do is we create 6 to 10 units, and we wanted to keep it small because a lot of people that are homeless don't want to go into conjugate living, the shelters, you know, because they heard all these bad things about the shelter. So now what we want to do is take these folks and bring them in a community setting where they can take and get everything that they need right there in that community. The shelters that we built, they have 4 walls. They're all powered by solar energy. We're using a bathroom shower conversion trailer for shower and bathrooms. We want to partner with the churches to do meals, to do skill building and whatever else churches do. We want those churches to adopt these folks because that's what the churches do. I was so glad to hear about the faith-based initiative, you know, because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for churches to partner with us as we create these lives and rebuild these lives. If we could take and get just a small parcel of land, we can start one of these villages. We need a proven concept, a place where we could put a pilot. I know it works because it's worked in other cities. We passed around some handouts, and on that last page, you'll see some of the cities where these things are already working. Mecklenburg County and North Carolina have not yet picked up on this concept, and it's affordable. We, I constantly all night I've heard about low-income housing, but no talk about no-income housing. You know, we're not charging these folks to come and take and straighten their lives out. What we're doing is we're offering them free housing with the help of the city and the county. Now, where do you get that from? And this gives a person a transition where they can take and make a pivot point to permanent housing. So with that, we'll go to the next slide. Our challenges are code compliance. Because this is new, nobody knows where to put them. Nobody knows what to call them. You know, we have to create a whole new code just for these pods. Land use, you know, I know the city has an abundance of unused property. Our pilot only calls for 2 years. That'll give us enough time to collect data and prove that it's a proven concept, that it will work and people can move on, you know, to make a better life for themselves. General funding. I'm new at this. My board is new at this, you know, and we look for money from wherever we can get it, you know, and I'm quite sure that I'm hoping that with the guidance of this committee and other committees in Charlotte, they'll show us how and where to get this funding from. And the city and community municipality support. this won't work without you guys. It won't work because homelessness is not an individual problem. It's a city problem, you know, and I feel that it shouldn't be just one individual group trying to change this project, this crisis. I think that joint efforts with the city and the county, we can take and have everybody inside. You know, you talk about ending homelessness. We end homelessness by coming together and taking something that's as simple as a pod, a small pod. In the inside of those, it's the same amenities as a tent. We added air conditioning and heat, but this person has a bed. It has 4 walls that are insulated, but most importantly, it has a front door with a key and a lock that gives a person dignity. You know, it's hard to try to find a job if you don't have an address, you know? And what this does is gives a person an address. And that way they start their life. If it wasn't for folks like Pivot Point and you guys, I'd have never made it off the street. But today I'm able to give back what was so freely given to me. So at this time, I'll let Drew, which, but anyway, I'd like to open it up for questions then.
Thank you, Barry. Obviously, a lot to think about. Any questions around the dais?
Mr. Ship, thank you for doing this. I'm so happy to see this because this is something that I've been advocating for years, and like you, I just couldn't figure out how to do it. I think you're absolutely right. The biggest challenge is gonna be code compliance from 2 places. One, the zoning ordinance, which again, if you've been watching these, all 3 of you who are watching have been watching this for the past couple of years. You hear I've been saying we need a small development ordinance that would cover transitional housing, small scale housing, small scale development, because the scale and the challenges that you face on buildings this small are different than industrial scale, single family home development. You do. And the city is going to need to get in front of that because this is the future with the high cost of land and high cost of materials. So I commend you for that. The other thing that I think would be great too is that we've got so many developers and so many construction companies that are doing multifamily housing and residential housing that are just essentially filling dumpsters with material, that there may be a partnership here to get to some of these larger developers and get some of these larger construction companies that are doing multifamily and say, hey, instead of taking this stuff and throwing it in a dumpster, perfectly at 2x4s and OSB board, can we come and get some of that stuff that you're going to throw away and just stockpile it?
Right.
And then you'd have more than enough material to build these houses all over the place. And I could foresee in the future you having several of these across the county as way stations, because to me, this is the beginning of housing. And then folks who live here, when they get settled, much like they do in Quixote Village in Olympia, Washington, which I saw you reference here, can then manage themselves and then move into an affordable housing situation, like an apartment or living, and then move out. So you provide people with a pathway from essentially living under an underpass to becoming stable.
Right.
So I commend you. I think that this is a godsend that I'm here today to hear this. I really appreciate that. If there's anything I can do to help from a code compliance standpoint or try to push this through code compliance, especially with the county building codes or the UDO, please.
Yes.
Let me know.
For sure.
But thank you
For
so
sure.
much
Thank
for
you.
addressing a problem that honestly nobody is dealing with.
Sure. Yeah, thanks very much. My comments previously were really dealing with product diversity, right? And making sure we understood the crisis that's being talked about for our housing units. So I kind of, having level set that with you, I want to piggyback on what Commissioner Russell was talking about was an opportunity to maybe have a pilot project. And I think I'm not putting anything in your mind that anyone on this dais and you in this room haven't already thought about. But I think there's an opportunity for an unsolicited proposal for a pilot project to maybe at a place like the Brooklyn Village, where we have a long-term opportunity for, maybe you've already done that. So there we go. I'm behind the eight ball. So I'm always last to the race, but you know, and it's an opportunity, I think, a timely one. And if we can't make it there, we certainly can make it somewhere else that has this space in between that we're going to be able to allow that. And I think having a pilot project to evaluate code standards and opportunities would lend yourself a better foot. And anybody who has stepped into one of your units, which I have, when you presented at the Independent Picture House last year, fantastic, right? The feel, what you
Yeah.
talked about was wonderful and a great opportunity. So I'll stop there, but maybe you can share a little bit about some of the work you're doing already with Brooklyn or anything. So.
As Mike famously says, I work for Brook Hill Village in development.
Sure.
there, So
My apologies.
eerily similar.
That's-
We are very in tune with what Brooklyn Village is doing and what Brook Hill Village, while we work through the onboarding of everything to come there, this potential land partner for the pilot village.
Thank you, Mr. Ship. I did do a little bit of research online, so I was trying to understand more about your project. And I heard you reference a couple times in some of the points you mentioned online, the differences that there are significant differences between no-income housing versus low-income housing. Can you speak to me a little bit more about what you see the differences are?
Well, the difference is that what we're doing is we're not charging anyone to come there. Okay, so basically what we're doing is giving you the skills to sustain housing and do that, doing the wraparound services, making sure you got IDs and making sure you got income coming in, be it SSI, SSDI, or gainfully employed. What we do is take a small portion of that, which we call program fees, so that that person, once they leave, if they stay 18 months or sooner, when they leave, they have some seed money to start. Okay, so when they move on to affordable housing, or if they get a voucher, they have money for food, they have money for furniture or things like that, you know, so that they're not just walking into a place. They got a place now, but we ain't got no money, we ain't got no furniture, you know. So what we try to do is make sure that they have everything they need. And then we follow that person for 6 months just to make sure that if they have some kind of hiccup, that we're there to help them get back on their feet.
Thank you. Okay, so let me follow up. I have another question too, off of that subject exactly. So in some of your materials also, I saw that you were looking at putting projects like this in the city, you know, where like development costs are more expensive. Have you thought about, you know, being outside of the city in smaller areas, maybe more rural, but how would it help your resident?
It wouldn't help our residents because right now they use the bus line. The bus line is their main means of transportation. You know, so basically, if we did move out in the rural areas, we'd have to have vans to bring folks in so they go to work, so that they could take advantage of some of the resources that are still here in Charlotte. So what we wanted to do was make it close to a bus line, you know. All of our villages will have a fence around it, not to keep folks in, but to keep folks out, you know, and security lighting, on-site security. So, you know, it's a safe place, but it's a prosperous place. It's a village run by the folks that live there.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Barry, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming. Thank you guys, the team, for showing up as well. To conclude our meeting, Kathy, you need me to say something, right? The comprehensive plan for unincorporated South Mecklenburg.
Turn it over to Maria.
Oh,
Where.
okay. Thank you, Maria.
But yeah, again, my name is Maria Florin, and we also have Aaron Stanforth here, our partners at Mecklenburg County, who helped us lead this plan for the comprehensive plan for unincorporated South Mecklenburg. As a reminder, I presented to you all back in November and back here today to provide just a brief recap, what we heard, and then the next steps, and then we're requesting this body's recommendation for adoption to share with the County Board of Commissioners. Again, here is the project area, and we are doing this to fulfill the legal requirement in North Carolina. 160D as stated on the slides. I won't read through that. And again, zooming into the project area. And again, the overall project schedule, we began this effort back in the spring. We held engagement in June through August, and then we've been in the adoption phase since September. For adoption timeline, we had our planning committee update to you all back in October. Then we all attended the Board of County Commissioners public hearing on November 18th. Today, we're here to have your discussion and recommendation, and then we're expecting the Mecklenburg County Board of County Commissioners decision in early 2026. Again, I won't go through these slides since you all are aware, but we have here how the map was developed, translating the existing zoning districts to the equivalent place type and reviewing conditions with the public. And then we developed the final recommendations. And again, here are the 4 place types that are identified on the plan map. And I also shared with this with you all back in October, but here's an overview of the community feedback. And then we have the final recommended map that reflects what we heard from the community. So the colors may change over time after adoption via the rezoning process or future planning efforts. And as noted in the plan, for future planning efforts, staff will revisit this land use guidance for the plan area during a future update of the now adopted South Outer Community Area Plan. And so before we move on to the consistency statement and recommendation language, I just wanted to open it up for discussions or questions.
Thank you, Maria. I'm sure as you guys remember, this was the County Commission public hearing that we sat in last time we all met. Terry, I believe you had a question.
Go ahead. No question.
No question. Any discussion on this end? Thank you guys for your work on this. Only question I had was, as this moves for decision to County Commission, do we need a representative as a part of that meeting, I would imagine? No?
Nope.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we had that.
But you're
down.
welcome.
If we-
You're welcome.
No, I mean, it'll be the same night as this in January, hopefully.
TBD. We're working on a
Okay.
date.
Well, once we know that, obviously, please let us know. And if either myself or my vice chair, that's really what they're here for. So
I mean, they like me more.
that's true. So we'll have somebody come. Thank you guys for your hard work.
Well, we have the plan consistency statement.
Just digesting here.
Okay, yeah, I'll let you guys take a look.
So, all right. Do I need to make the motion here, or is that somebody on the commission makes a motion kind of the same as our other motion?
Same as any other motion you make.
Okay.
I'll do it.
The comprehensive plan for unincorporated South Mecklenburg is found to meet the state legal requirement as stated in North Carolina Law, Chapter 160D, Article 5. As a condition of adopting and applying zoning regulations under this chapter, a local government shall adopt and reasonably maintain a comprehensive plan or land use plan. Therefore, we find the comprehensive plan for unincorporated South Mecklenburg to be reasonable and in the public interest based on the legally required land use guidance identified in the plan, which was informed by community engagement and the public input received.
Second it too. Second it. All right. Motion by Wilden, second by Sealy, all in favor. Thank you very much. And again,
Sorry, I think this is that was the consistency statement.
oh, you
and
didn't
this
have
is
to
the
read that?
language.
I didn't have to read that.
I don't know what they were saying.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, right.
Come on now.
Okay, I'm doing it.
Man,
I'm doing, no, I'm
Okay,
doing it
okay.
now.
thank you for
I'm
letting her
committed.
read.
Well, she has reviewed it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Having reviewed the comprehensive plan for unincorporated South Mecklenburg and having considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this plan, I move that we recommend approval of the comprehensive plan for unincorporated South Mecklenburg as it appears before us.
Second, Seeley.
Motion Wilden, second Seeley, all in favor once more. Thank you very much. And thank you guys to staff. Is that it?
Thank you.
All right, I believe that's it for the agenda. Next month we have, it's the UDO. Refresh my memory.
Text amendment update.
Okay, so next month we have a text amendment update. I believe that's it. Happy holidays, everyone, and we'll see you next year.